welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show. We give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus insight into what it all means. Joining us, as always, is today, birthday boy, John Campea.
Greetings and salutations on this most auspicious and holy of days, my birthday, of course. Thanks for joining us, coming to you live from the Stream.TV studios here in Hollywood, California. We are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
Also here, writer-director John Schnepp.
Hey, so Campea, you brought all this rain on your birthday. He's the rainmaker.
I like having a little bit of weather in LA.
Yeah, he's like Thor or something. You're like, bring forth the weather gods.
If only we could have some snow, then I would feel at home. If only we could have snow here.
I don't need the snow. Just rain is fine.
Oh, yeah,
Happy birthday.
You're from Chicago. Yeah, you know what the snow's all about.
And before that, Connecticut. I'm all about the snow. So.
All right, let's get started.
According to a report in Variety, the Amazing Spider-Man director, Marc Webb, has officially signed on for The Amazing Spider-Man 3, set to hit AMC theaters on June 10, 2016. Webb's Amazing Spider-Man 2 will be on AMC screens on May 2nd. John, is it a good idea for Webb to return for a third Amazing Spider-Man?
There are two ways of looking at this, and let's look at it from a positive point of view at first. Everybody I have spoken to that has some inside information or is part of the studio or whatever is gushing over Spider-Man 2. Everybody's thrilled with it, and I personally have loved everything I've seen from it. And the fact that Sony wants to sign Webb to keep going with number 3 is a really good sign that they really like what he has been doing. That's all positive stuff. And from a more optimistic point of view, you could say, hey, if the ship is rolling right, let him keep going with it. However, there's another way of looking at this. I'm kind of over the last couple of years, I've developed the belief that directors, especially really good ones and really creative ones, I don't believe they should stay on the same property for very long. Look at Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi has got to be on your top 10 list of favorite directors going right now. At least, I know a lot of us who watch this show probably feel that way. He is a creative genius. But even he, after he was on Spider-Man for so long, by the time he got to Spider-Man 3, I just think his creative juices got dried up. And then he moved on. And then once he moved on, he was brilliant again. And I just worry that a guy like Marc Webb, sticking on the same franchise and staying with the same series for too long, I believe those creative wheels are in danger of rusting and falling off. I think it's good for a director to move on to new creative challenges, and I think it's good for a franchise to bring in fresh blood. So I'm really torn on this, because I don't ignore all the positives, but you can't ignore the dangers of this as well. Right. So I'm feeling torn. What do you think?
I'm really into him being the third director of all three of them, completing not only the trilogy, but they've already announced it's going to be a quadrilogy.
Yeah, there's going to be number 4.
So there's a fourth one that, that he's not secured for yet, so to speak. And you mentioned Raimi, I'll mention Nolan as well for the Dark Knight trilogy. For me personally, the third one kind of puttered out.
I think for most people, even though we didn't love the third one, but I think even the biggest fans of the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy will probably say the weakest of them, it was probably the third.
And the best one was the second one. So if we're lucky, this Amazing Spider-Man 2 is going to be the best one. But I'm hoping that it's just the beginning of more of awesomeness. I think Sony announced like a day or so ago that they're going to be at least one Spider-Man movie every year is their goal. Right. So there's going to be a Amazing Spider-Man 2. The following year, I don't know if it's going to be Black Cat or Sinister Six or Venom. Yeah. And then the following year after that, Amazing Spider-Man 3.
They're kind of doing a Star Wars thing. Star Wars episode, spin-off. Yep. Star Wars episode, spin-off. So it kind of looks like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's really smart. Marc Webb, from everything I've seen, like you said, in the trailers, everything he's talked about, his head is so screwed on right to do Spider-Man properly. Yeah. I think even more so than Sam Raimi. I loved Sam Raimi's Spider-Mans, the first 2 of them. And it was basically like a love letter to Steve Ditko and Stan Lee and all the coolness that Spider-Man was in the 60s. Yeah. And what Marc Webb has done now is like take Spider-Man into the 2000s, so it's into the new millennium. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really excited about the way him and the other writers have infused Oscorp and all the villains into Oscorp, because it just makes sense. It makes total sense that where did all these weird characters come from? Why is that dude a rhino? What's up with why does everyone have animal and insect weirdness going on?
If I had a nickel for every time I heard somebody say, "Why is that dude a rhino?"
Yeah, right.
It comes up all the time.
You could possibly be incredibly rich.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, I'm all for Marc Webb, and thank God Marc Webb is doing the third one. Is all I can say.
All right, what's next?
Could Shrek be returning to the big screen? In a recent interview, DreamWorks CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg hinted at that very possibility when he said the following: "We like to let them have a little bit of time to rest, but I think you can be confident that we'll have another chapter in the Shrek series. We're not finished, and more importantly, neither is he." Schnepp, would you be up for a 5th Shrek movie?
I love the way Katzenberg, like, we like to give them a little bit of time to rest, like they're real. Shrek is sleeping. He's hibernating like a bear.
His muscles are so sore.
He's in the green house of money, sleeping on gold bullions. Yeah, that's the rest that they needed. Just like Shrek in space. They could do anything with Shrek. It's just printing money. It's a fun character. Why not? I don't, personally, it's like giving him a little bit of time to rest is not a bad idea because, memory makes the heart grow fonder, so to speak. And you're like, oh, remember Shrek? It's like maybe Shrek 4, Shrek 3 didn't hit it for some people, but, Shrek 5 might rock it, So, yeah, it's one of those properties that can go on forever.
Yeah, for me, I liked the first Shrek. Didn't love it. I liked it, though. I loved the second Shrek. I detested the third Shrek. And I got back onto the Love and Shrek thing with the fourth Shrek. I really liked the fourth.
Right.
And it felt like a great ending. The fourth Shrek felt like a great ending. Now, inevitably, somebody's going to bring up the question, we don't need another Shrek film. Of course, my argument is we don't need any movie. There is no movie that has ever been made that needed to be made. It's just, is there a hunger for it in the audience? I got to tell you what, you release a new Shrek film next year, I'm there. I'm going to go and see it. Look, they made 4 films. I only think they blew one of them, which was the third one, and they blew that one hard. But I thought they recovered great with the fourth one. And he's right. I think we needed a bit of a break from Shrek because we had a lot of Shrek. But by the time, if they do start production on a new one, we probably won't get it till 2016. So that'll be 6 or 7 years in between films. That's a nice little break. Now you can have Shrek and Fiona and their teenage ogres.
Right.
And you can almost have almost like an Incredibles feel to it a little bit. And I would rather have an Incredibles 2 instead of a Shrek 5, but 2 different companies, and that's not happening. So why would I bother crying about it? But if you are listening, studios, Pixar and Disney in particular, it is my birthday. I would really like Incredibles 2. Thank you very much. So I'd be all for it.
Might I second that Incredibles 2 for his birthday wish.
All right, folks, we reached that part of the show called Buy and Sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ashley's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. And then Schnepp and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Last year's surprise hit, The Conjuring, made nearly $320 million at the worldwide box office on just a $20 million budget. Riding that momentum, the studio has begun shooting the spin-off Annabelle, set to hit AMC theaters on October 3rd, while The Conjuring 2 will be released on October 23rd, 2015. John, buy or sell The Conjuring sequel and spin-off?
Well, I mean, yeah, you read the numbers are the numbers. $320 million worldwide on a $20 million budget. That's awesome. The Conjuring was such a great little surprise film for me. Yeah. It freaked me out. And I'm going to tell you right now, one of the most genius parts of that film was Annabelle. Because she's barely there. She's just a little side story to Annabelle, right? And that was genius for them to do it that way. But when I finished watching that film, my nightmares that night were about Annabelle. It wasn't about the witch, and I loved the whole movie. I loved everything they did, and I'm very much looking forward to The Conjuring 2. I like that they're almost creating their own Conjuring cinematic universe in many ways. But I'm telling you, this little doll freaked the hell out of me. And it was so brilliantly done. But here's what I'm worried about, though. I'm worried that part of the fear eliciting that it did for me was because it was used so subtly and so rarely in the film. I wonder if a film about Annabelle will diminish that feeling in me if there's too much Annabelle. But I'm just mildly worried about that. Really, I cannot wait to see this. I'm really excited what they're doing. So for me, it's a buy.
Yeah, a total buy for me. Like The Conjuring, renewed my my interest in new horror in such a great way because. I mean, let's face it, if you see 30, 40 horror movies a year, and a lot of them just don't reach that kind of level that The Conjuring, which was a studio-released film, usually they just muck it up and make it a PG-13, everything, the edges are all soft, there's no sharp, cool moments to the film, there's nothing really scary about it. Conjuring did everything right, and it scared the hell out of me.
Great performances, too.
I saw it twice in the theater. It was so shocking and scary the second time just as well. All the performances were great. I really hope they get the main 2 actors back.
I don't know if they're going to be in Annabelle.
Not for Annabelle, but for The Conjuring 2.
I'm going to pretty much sure they will.
Because they announced that they're doing The Conjuring 2, which is great news, and I'm really excited about Annabelle because basically they did a cabin in the woods. That one room is basically all these different stories.
Well, it's almost like Warehouse 13 on TV, or there's a bunch of different shows that revolve around some sort of chamber that holds all these things, and every week you could do an episode on one different thing, and that could be the whole spin-off philosophy of the Conjuring
I
movies.
love it. In fact, it's like sort of like the Friday the 13th TV show.
Oh,
remember that? Where it's like they always have to get some weird thing, you know? It's like, all those always are really fun, and so this has that magic box feeling where they're already doing a spin-off of one of them. Here's Annabelle. So. I hope Annabelle is just as scary as The Conjuring, if not more so.
Looking forward to it. What's next?
With a combined box office of over $900 million, it's not surprising that Sony is planning on a third Smurfs movie. However, according to reports, the next Smurfs installment won't have any live action in it and will be completely animated. Jeanette, buy or sell the next Smurfs film being completely animated?
I'm going to have to completely sell this, is what I'm going to have to do. I'm not a Smurfs fan, so I'll just be honest straight up. I didn't see Smurfs 1, and I didn't see Smurfs 2, Electric Boogaloo, or whatever it was called. So to me, to find out, it's like, oh, they're going even cheaper and just making it all CG, because, I mean, it's like all the characters are already built, so why bother having actors in it? That just costs more money. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like a kind of a cheap way of making a third film. If you're going to make a trilogy, stick with the way you did the first two. The first two had live action actors interacting with these little tiny avatar blue people, and why not make the third one like that so you have a trilogy that kind of makes sense instead of going, it just feels like one of those straight to DVD cheapo, like, hey, it's Smurfs 3, guys, and everything's weirdly rendered and it just doesn't have the same quality. At least that's what it reads to me when I hear this kind of news. It just reads cheapo, so that's why I'm selling it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on this. I'm actually going to buy it. Now, I very shockingly liked the first Smurfs movie. I found it really charming. I loved Hank Azaria as Gargamel. Right. For me, it worked. And a lot of people didn't like it. That's fine. Smurfs 2, I'd rather not talk about. That was not such a great thing.
Was Gargamel in it?
Yes. But here's the thing. The reason I like this move, well, from a business point of view, let's talk from a business point of view, then from a movie fan point of view. From a business point of view, this thing made nearly $900 million between the two films. Obviously, you make another one. Right. From a film fan point of view, going back, I think going all animated is the right move for them, because growing up and watching the Smurfs when I was a little kid, that's what it was. It wasn't the Smurfs interacting with the real human world. I'm actually kind of curious and happy they're going to take it back to a Smurfs universe and go all animated. And Sony Animation's done a terrific job from a technical point of view. They've done a terrific job with this property. It's always looked very good. And I think going back to full animated, the way the Smurfs are meant to be, we've already had 2 adventures in the real human world. Go back to its roots. I like that move. It will probably be a hot, steamy mess, but I'm going to hold out some hope, and I like the move they're doing.
Well, just a side note on that, it does make sense monetarily to do it, but and obviously the main focal group are going to be kids who are watching it, so I don't think they might even care if the first 2 they're real people, and in the third one they're strangely fake looking, all the humans, or maybe they just won't have humans at all.
I got a feeling they're not going to go humans at all. I think they're going into the Smurfs world and probably keep it there this time.
Well, then they've got the 3D technology to keep the same character looks, leaves and trees and branches will all look the same, so maybe that makes sense,
All right, what's next?
The upcoming Entourage movie is already filming in Los Angeles, and it just secured its official release date. Entourage will hit AMC screens on June 12, 2015, in the summer movie season. This picture was also just released, showing Liam Neeson, showing Jeremy Piven's Ari Gold character some love. John, buy or sell a June 12, 2015 release date for Entourage?
I'm going to sell it, but let me tell you, I'm actually looking forward to the movie. I think this is a unique property, Entourage, that is set up in such a way that bringing a big screen hijinks adventure of this group of people, I think this works. And seeing just little stuff like this makes me laugh. And so I'm really curious to see the whole thing. But the reason I'm going to sell this is because as much as I feel like this show is set up to do an individual one-shot hijinks adventure on the big screen, I don't think the summer is the time for it. I don't know that this film is going to compete well in that summer, particularly in the summer of 2015. I wish they'd done this as a November release or something. So, but we'll see. Maybe they know something we don't know, and it's perfectly suited for it. But for me, I have my doubts.
Well, I'm going to buy it just not because of the summer release, but just because I'm excited that they're doing an Entourage movie and doing the right things with it. This picture just alone is like, all right, they've got a ton. They've got a ton of stunt casting. We were just talking about the UFC fighter. What's her name?
Ronda
again?
Rousey.
She might have a role in it now, and so it's gonna. I think it's gonna have a lot of fun. It might bring a lot of the energy back from the first 3 or 4 seasons that I like the best. So seeing a movie version of Entourage sounds really exciting. Maybe Aquaman 2 will have already been released. So it makes perfect sense to come in at the summer. And I think it'll be one of those films where it's like, hey, it's a light comedy about movie making, about being in the industry. It might be perfect counter programming. Wherever their release slot is,
true.
it could be like, hey, here's this gigantic monster movie. Here's this superhero film. Here's this adventure film comedy about Hollywood life. It could just be the perfect counter program.
Matt Damon has to have the cameo. Matt Damon is my all-time favorite cameo in the Entourage show, so I really hope he's there.
Right on.
All right, what's next?
It's being reported that The Fault in Our Stars director Josh Boone is in talks to take on Warner Brothers' big screen adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand. The Stand tells the story of a full-scale apocalypse driven by the accidental release of a biological weapon and the ensuing struggle of good versus evil carried out by the world's final survivors. Crazy Heart director Scott Cooper was previously attached to direct until leaving the project. Jeanette, buy or sell the sounds of The Stand?
I'm going to sell it. I read The Stand when I was 13. It's one of my favorite horror books. It's in the top 10 easily. And for years, they've been doing adaptations of The Stand. They've been doing television series, like
little
miniseries. Just having the scope of a book like The Stand being condensed down into 2 hours, to me, it just feels like, I mean, just as being a fan of the book and the original source material, a disservice. I mean, it's hard enough making a 6-hour movie called The Stand that you see in mini segments. To make a 2-hour movie and like just kind of boil down, here's Flag and here's a woman from the South, and it's just such big ideas other than just being an apocalyptic end of the world type movie. I just feel like, you know, maybe for people who've never read The Stand and seeing a cinematic version of it, it would be great. But just for me personally, you know, unless they're going to rock it and do an R-rated, like 2.5-hour version, 3-hour version or something like that, where, you know, it's doable. We've seen Watchmen. We've seen movies where they were able to take something that's like a giant, you know, book or comic book graphic novel and condense it down and keep almost all the core elements. So, but just for right now, I'm going to sell it.
You know, from what I heard, they are going to gun for a big rated R. It's difficult to give this a buy or sell. I was really excited when Cooper was going to be directed because I love the job he did on Crazy Heart. I was really excited. I have not seen Fault in Our Stars yet. And so it's really difficult to get a feel for this director and his style and how I think of. But you mentioned it too. We got to keep in mind that almost every novel to movie adaptation is squeezing a book into a 2-hour thing, and sometimes it's really great and it works, and sometimes it doesn't work, whatever. So I'm not so bothered by the idea that it's going to be, you know, one single movie, because originally I think they did have the idea of doing 2 movies or maybe even 3. I like the idea that they can condense it down a bit, but I'm going to give it a buy, but I may change my mind really quickly after I see Fault in Our Stars. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. All right, folks, we reached that part of the show called Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a question or a topic you'd like us to bring up on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, before we get to the mailbag question, I want to let you know we do this show every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're watching us live, you can tweet in live questions to us right now. You can hop on Twitter and tweet to us at AMC Movie News. Ashley's going to be over there keeping an eye on our Twitter stream, so start sending in your questions now. But first, we've got a question in the mailbag to get to. So Ashley, what do we got?
Nellie B. Jones writes, I love movies very much, but I'm also an avid reader, and seeing my favorite books adapted to the big screen should make me very happy. But most of the time, the adaptations make the book even worse, especially when it's a series, Harry Potter being the exception. Vampire Academy, the book, is nothing like the movie. But the one thing I truly hate the most is when they split that last book into 2 different movies. The 3rd book in the Hunger Games series, Mockingjay, is in my opinion not very good, and to split it into 2 makes me not want to see it at all. Why do they do that, and why is the release between those 2 parts almost a year apart?
I agree with you. I don't think the 3rd book in the Hunger Games series is all that good, but I didn't think the 2nd book in the Hunger Games series is all that good And the movie was amazing. The movie worked out great. Now, I'm in the minority not liking the second or third Hunger Games books on that level. But this brings up a big thing. This is a big topic. You always hear people say, the book was better.
Yep.
Here's the problem.
You just heard me say that 5 seconds ago.
Here's why, though, I really believe. Because if you talk to a lot of people, very few people will watch a movie first and then read the book. Most people don't think they need to read the book once they've seen a movie. But I've got a few friends who have seen a movie and then read a book, the book version of it afterwards, and say, the movie was better. Here's why. Our first experience with a story tends to be the gauge by which we measure everything else. So when you're reading a book, the pictures aren't painted for you. You know, your imagination starts to put it all together, and you can experience a certain way. And also, don't forget, a book can be 400 pages long, whereas a movie has to be condensed down to a 90 to 120 page screenplay. So there's going to be some things missing. But as you're reading that book, you're getting in all this stuff that's going to be missing from the movie when you watch it. You can picture scenes and characters however your imagination wants to picture it, and then that's your experience with it. Then you go and watch a movie version, and 9 times out of 10, we feel let down by it because our first experience with something was with the book. It doesn't do the things the way we pictured it in our heads. So much of the material is missing, some extra things were added. And then people who watch the movie first, a lot of times they feel like the movie was better than the book because that was their first experience. As far as why they split books into 2, there's a couple of different reasons. One reason is simply because of what we said. Books can be 400, 500, 600, 700. I mean, I remember the last Harry Potter book was like a tome. Like, it was huge. And you got to boil that down to like a 120-page screenplay. So sometimes, in a lot of cases, it just makes sense. I even think like the last Twilight film was a really big book. It makes sense. Chop it in half and do it as 2 separate films because there's just too much material to cover in one film. Like, you got 800 pages, can't squeeze that down to a 100-page screenplay. So that makes sense. But then there's a little milking as well. You know, when the studio knows, hey, we've got a hot, popular property here, let's stretch this out a little bit. Can we do the last book in this series as 2 movies and still make them high quality? If yes, then it just makes sense to do them that way. So on one hand, it's just practical. On the other hand, there's a little bit of milking going on there, but both are perfectly acceptable to me if you still make the movies pretty good. How do you see it?
I would say a lot of milking, but perfectly acceptable, but quite a lot of milking, because you had Harry Potter, you had Twilight, and now you have Mockingjay, Hunger Games, all doing that with the last book. Like, oh my God, this is just so much money. Can we split it into 2? Yes, we can. Like, obviously, you can condense a movie like The Stand, which is like the 700-800 pages. You can condense that down to 2 hours, or you can rock it to 6 hours as a TV series, or you could do a 12-part miniseries. There's all different ways of adapting. And like what you were talking about when you read a book, you have all those visuals burned into your mind that you thought of. I mean, it's a totally different game. When I read a book and then I see the adaptation, for comic books it's a little different because it's a visual and storytelling medium. So something like Watchmen, not only is the words of Alan Moore so important, but it's also the images by Dave Gibbons that equally burn together. So I think someone like Zack Snyder did a really good version of the Watchmen by keeping so much of Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore's original text and visual, using Dave Gibbons stuff almost as a moving storyboard in some certain cases. That's why, to me, even though they changed certain things and cut a ton of stuff out, it felt like such a great adaptation. Just, that's my opinion. But, the long and short of it is like, yeah, that's going to be making a lot more money if you have 2 movies instead of 1. Could they have done the third Hunger Games as 1 movie? Sure. But why? When you're like, we have a rabid fan base, we can release them 1 year apart, just like they did with The Matrix. And they do that with a lot of other films when they're like, they shoot things back to back. Lord of the Rings is a perfect example, We have them coming out 1 a year because they shot them back to back. And ultimately, who wins is us. We get to see instead of having to wait 3 years.
If they do them right.
If they do them right, yeah.
Because but I think the one thing we can all agree on, and I think whatever side of this debate we fall, I think we can all universally agree that they need to split the last 50 Shades of Grey book into 3 films. I think we can all agree on that. Yes? Yes. All right. Well, listen, folks, it's time to take your questions live from the Twitter stream. Once again, if you got some questions, you can fire them in there just to @AMC Movie News. Ashley is our gatekeeper. So, Ashley, what's going on in the Twitter stream?
T-Dog Terrell writes, do you think the Lego movie would work with Marvel heroes instead of DC heroes? Possible sequel idea? Keep up the great work.
Sure it can, but remember in the Lego movie, the DC heroes are really just minor side characters. I mean, Batman notwithstanding. Right. Now, Batman is obviously a key major character. But, you know, Superman, Green Lantern, they were just there for a little, and Wonder Woman were just there for a couple of little side gags. Not really important. The DC cinematic universe is really not important in the Lego movie. So could you have swapped out a one-line gag from Superman with a one-line gag for an Iron Man Lego guy? Sure, you could have. It wouldn't make much of a difference. But remember, even though there are some DC characters in the Lego movie, this is not a DC movie. I mean, it is a Warner Brothers movie, but it's about Emmett and Vesuvius and what do they? Wild Style. Are you a DJ? I love that show. It's about them and Batman, but the Lego version of Batman. So I don't really think it's that important. So it would have worked either way.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind in the Lego 2 movie if they chuck in Iron Man or one of the Groot, you know, as a Lego character would be great. Just he would only say 3 words. But yeah, I mean, you know, it definitely falls into the, you know, Disney versus Warner Brothers. Can they make a deal? Hey, can we give us one of these
We
things?
talked about this off camera, but Warner Brothers is probably not in the mood right now to promote Marvel properties.
Or even if it was Sony, though, because since it might not be a Marvel Disney thing, it could be a Sony Warner Brothers friendship deal where Spider-Man swings in as a Lego character in number 2. I had a thing about the Lego movie. I don't know if we talked about it on camera, but Superman and Green Lantern, Superman was constantly, get away from me. But Green Lantern is in his goofy movie outfit with the weird striated suit. So I was wondering if that was like an in-joke that the filmmakers like, get that stink away from me. Like Superman kept like, can you not get near me with your weird movie
I don't
version?
think so.
No?
I think it was more of a gag on the fact that it's Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill doing the voices of Green Lantern and that. But you could be right. We'd have to talk to Phil Lord and Miller about that.
I wonder.
All right, what's next?
Andrew Johnson writes, will Disney buy the rights to the Dr. Seuss books?
I have no idea.
Why not? They own everything else.
Yeah,
they should go for it.
I don't see why they would, though. I mean, I don't see a huge clamoring out there for a Dr. Seuss cinematic universe.
Well, I mean, but not yet. It hasn't been really fully explored. All the Dr. Seuss animated cartoons are beloved.
Yeah,
you know, the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, Horton Hears a Who.
And
all
for the
of those.
record, I actually, I don't know, it shocked me when I realized a lot of people didn't like the Jim Carrey Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I actually liked that movie. I watch it every Christmas.
It was definitely
really
fun.
cute.
Cat in the Hat, we won't talk about. Some kind of weird, nightmare-inducing weirdness. That might be good if you were on some kind of high-end drugs.
Yeah,
you know?
and even then, I don't think so.
Then it would just be nightmare-inducing.
All right, what's next?
Dan writes, do you guys think Colin Farrell will make a good Joker?
Colin Farrell is an incredible actor. He's flat out an amazing performer. If you haven't seen, well, there's a couple things that he's done that were really, really good, but most recently in Saving Mr. Banks, he was just incredible. He should have, I think, maybe won an Academy Award. Well, maybe not won, but at least nominated for In Bruges.
Yes,
I mean, his
In
performance
Bruges,
of that is incredible. There's a couple of other smaller indie films he's done too. Turns in remarkable performances. So, as an amazing actor, absolutely, he could do it. I don't know if he'd be people's first choice, but he could do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think he's a great actor. I mean, I thought he was one of the better parts of the Daredevil movie.
I loved
Bullseye.
him in Daredevil.
Yeah, he was great as Bullseye.
That scene, a lot of people mock it, but when he's sitting on the airplane beside the old woman who's irritating him, and you can see he's stressing out over it, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments in the Daredevil movie that are great. So, I mean, that movie gets snubbed all the time, but, like, you know, it actually has some great scenes in it. Him as the Joker, he doesn't pop into my mind right off the bat, but neither did Heath Ledger, neither did, you know, it's like, you know, Jack Nicholson, when he was cast as the Joker, I remember, like, that makes sense. He's the Joker, you know?
See, whenever you ask these questions about, would so-and-so be a good whatever? Would so-and-so be a good whatever? The first question that comes that I want to raise and push back is, well, let's start with this. Is the so-and-so you're mentioning a great actor? And if they are, they'll fit. Hence my problems with the Gal Gadot casting. But anyway, I'm not going to open up that hornet's nest.
I think Farrell would do a good job. I mean, like I said, like you know, just like Eisenberg wasn't the first choice of Lex Luthor. People are like, what?
But is he a legit good Hollywood actor?
He's a really good actor.
That's why I can live with it.
And also, it's got to have something to do with the script. I mean, maybe that's, you know, we don't know what the script is. So would Farrell rock as the Joker? Why not? I think he's a great actor.
All right, let's take a few more.
Fahad Haqqani writes, best soundtrack from 2013. Mine, Man of Steel.
Oh, Man of Steel. The Hobbits, I found the second Hobbit films better than the first Hobbit film. But yeah, that Man of Steel soundtrack to me is just riveting. I could just sit down. There's not a lot of soundtracks to movies that I could listen to in the film and love, and just sit down, pop in the CD, and just listen to it. Right. Man of Steel's is one of them for me.
Yeah, I mean, Zimmer did just a fantastic job with Man of Steel. It's really fun and rousing, and has like just great orchestration. Yeah. It's ultimately re-listenable. Like sometimes I'll listen to it and not even think about Man of Steel if I just have it on like Spotify or something like that. But Lord of the Rings, you mentioned, like, yeah, for me, I actually like the first Hobbit movie better than the second Hobbit movie. So I'm hoping that the third one kind of ties things better together for me. But
all right, what's next?
I thought this one was kind of funny, so I have to ask it. Caleb Spocht writes, if The Rock traveled back in time and replaced an actor in your favorite movie, would it make it better?
Well, he wouldn't have fit in any of the Star Wars movies, the original Star Wars movies. Maybe see him as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know. I don't see that myself.
I would have him travel back in time just only a few years ago and be Conan in the new Conan the Barbarian movie.
Oh, so you're just talking just a couple of years ago,
just a couple years.
Not back to the Arnold
era. If I had
era.
to have him go back in time to Rock, but as the Rock persona, I would have him kick Arnold's ass in The Last Action Hero. Like, I'd have him just show up and be like, what are you doing here? I'm the Rock from the future. Have some crazy battle.
Okay, let's do two more.
Sin writes, question, hey guys, love the show. Thoughts on Kate Beckinsale as Catwoman in future Batman movies? She and Ben equal good chemistry.
What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think she's great in the Underworld series, and but no.
I think if you brought that up to me a couple of years ago, I would see it. Then again, I think a slightly younger Kate Beckinsale also would have been an amazing Wonder Woman. She pulls off great action on screen. She's wonderful, and she is she's an Oscar-nominated actress. Right. I mean, she's fantastic. But she is 41, 42. I don't know how much longer she wants to be doing those types of roles.
Right, and on top of that, because the Ben Affleck is the rugged Batman that's retired and coming back out of retirement, henceforth they have to age up the Catwoman and any of the characters in that DC Batman universe.
Well, you know what? No, you changed my mind. I take it back. If Ben Affleck can be a 42, 43, 44-year-old Batman, why can't Kate Beckinsale, who is still hot, who can still pull off action on screen? I totally take it back. Yes, I could see it. It's not going to happen. But I could totally see it. Yes, I totally changed my mind on that. Thank you for straightening me out.
Mr. Couchy Man writes, question, do you think the outcome of GOTG will affect whether BP or Doctor Strange comes out?
No. They're going to do Doctor Strange. Regardless of what Guardians of the Galaxy do. Remember, we've said this before. Marvel's in a place right now that they've had so many successes and everybody loves the Marvel Universe so much, they could totally crap the bed with one of their movies. If Guardians of the Galaxy ends up totally sucking, which I have every reason to believe it's going to be awesome, but if it totally sucks and totally bombs, doesn't matter. That's one little bump in the road on a long string of success. They're moving ahead with their plans for Phase 3. Black Panther is not in the plans for Phase 3, but I'm fairly positive Doctor Strange is. I think we know that he is at this point. And so, no, it's not going to change. No matter what happens with Guardians of the Galaxy, I think they've got their Phase 3 plans set in stone. They're moving ahead full force. Yeah,
without a shadow of the doubt, Doctor Strange, the Doctor will be in 2017 or whatever they're going to drop.
The Doctor will be in.
I'm so excited. Doctor Strange is one of my favorite Marvel characters, especially the Steve Ditko weirdness. Bring on the mindless ones. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with this Marvel adaptation. And I don't think it's going to... Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, their poster is like, from the people who brought you Avengers, Captain America, then these strange characters, you're welcome.
I love that.
It's literally saying, come at me, bro. It's literally like, we're bringing out the weirdo characters and we're going to make that awesome.
And it's going to be awesome.
And it's going to be awesome.
I should just mention here before we sign off, Clifford Rivera, I like this, in the chat board is saying, The Rock should do a Jingle All the Way remake.
Yo! He would actually...
I can see The Rock saying, hey, for the next 5 years of my career, every year I am going to remake one Arnold Schwarzenegger classic.
Right, but just get rid of Jake Lloyd.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like, that should have been the George Lucas should have seen Jingle All the Way before he cast Anakin. Oh, that strange kid who's wooden and cannot act or deliver a line. Let's get him to be Luke Skywalker's dad.
All right, folks, well, that'll do it for us. We've run all the time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Listen, don't forget, lots of great movies playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Listen, if you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video, and you'll find links to our Stitcher and our iTunes so you can listen to us on the way to work. And listen, if you have not done so already, take a second, click the thumbs up button, and subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. Keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, including our daily AMC Movie Talk show, Mailbag, coming soon, AMC Versus, so much great stuff going on right now on our YouTube channel. I want to thank, first of all, the guy sitting at the table with me, the one and the only Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me at Twitter and Instagram at John Schnepp, and wish happy birthday to John Campea. Happy birthday to you.
Woo!
Happy birthday to him. Happy birthday to John Campea, AMC Movie News Editor-in-Chief and most awesome dude. Happy birthday to this guy.
My year's got nowhere to go but downhill now. that was the highlight of my year. All right, and also our lovely host today, Miss Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Ashley Mova. Happy birthday, John.
Woo. Yeah!
And thank you to you guys. You can find me on the various social media channels just at John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining us again. My name's John Campea for AMC Movie News. And until tomorrow, bye-bye.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.